What's it like to be told you have cancer? Hello, I'm Catherine Lightbound. In this first episode of our Treetops Hospice podcast, we're talking to Tracey. Tracey has terminal bowel cancer, and over the next 20 minutes you will hear her talk very honestly about her diagnosis, how people respond when she tells them, and how much she'd like to bottle up the feelings she gets when she comes to Treetops for support. If you would like more information about how we can help you or a loved one, head to treetops.org.uk. And please don't forget to share this podcast with others. Tell me a bit about your diagnosis. So maybe going back to kind of the beginning, how you discovered you were poorly, how did that pan out? Anything that you want to share with?
Okay, so in January 2020, I noticed I got diarrhea, and I noticed in my diarrhea there was quite a bit of blood. I'd had no symptoms other than that, really. I didn't see the doctor because you couldn't go anywhere. We were in lockdown. So I rang the doctors and told them about it. And they said, when I finally got through to a doctor, they said they'd send me a fit test out, which is a little test where you scrape your poo, put it in the pot and give it back to the doctors. I did that, and they rang me about a week later and confirmed that there was blood in my poo, and they'd organised a colonoscopy for me. I went for the colonoscopy on the 27th of January, and as soon as the camera went up my bottom, you could see that the tumour was there. It was about 4 inches, and it was pulsating blood, which is why there was so much blood in my poo. The lady that was doing the procedure, I could see, even through the camera, I could see the look in her eyes, and you could tell it wasn't good. It wasn't a good thing. And she completed the whole thing, and she explained to me that the tumour comes from a polyp, which over time just grows and grows and grows and turns cancerous. She basically confirmed that it was cancer, and that she was going to be sending the details off, and I should expect to hear from a surgeon at some point. I saw a surgeon, I think it was a couple of weeks later. And he sat me down and he said, "Why do you think I've got you here today?" And I said, "Well, hopefully you're going to tell me you're going to remove this tumour." In the 2 weeks in between, I'd had an MRI and a CT scan. And he said, "No," he said, "unfortunately, we can't remove the tumour because you've got mets in your lungs, liver, and something on your kidneys that we're not sure about, or kidney that we're not sure about." And he drew a diagram of everything where it was, and said that they thought that the way forward would be chemo first, to control the ones on my liver, because they were the worst at the time, and then possibly surgery on the tumour in my rectum later. And so they passed me on to the oncologist, who set me up for chemotherapy. I started chemotherapy on the 15th of March. And I had chemotherapy until mid-June, beginning of June it was. And I was very poorly from the chemotherapy. The chemotherapy was really, really intrusive, really beat me up. I struggled big time. I spent a lot of time in bed. I got admitted into hospital quite a few times because my mood dropped so low that I would say I wasn't suicidal, but I was scared to be on my own. And I'd never felt like that before. I've never had a problem with mental health issues. And I think the doctors were concerned about how it was making me feel. But I was admitted in June with constipation, which I've suffered with ever since I've been diagnosed, on and off. It's either constipation or diarrhea, which is the nature of bowel cancer. And whilst I was admitted, they did a CT scan on me, and it was discovered that the chemotherapy hadn't had any effect whatsoever. So they stopped the chemotherapy, and they said that they would like me to try another chemotherapy. But in the meantime, I had 10 sessions of radiotherapy on the tumour because it was bleeding a lot, to try and stop the tumour from bleeding and to stop it from getting any bigger. Because of where it is, it couldn't be operated on. It had gone into my pelvic area. It was too big. So I had the radiotherapy, which despite everybody telling me it would be quite as bad as the chemotherapy, I found it not a problem at all. It was probably one of the better sides of the treatment that I've had. I finished the radiotherapy. I started on the next type of chemotherapy, and the first session of the chemotherapy I had, again, my mood dropped. I was admitted into hospital, and one of the doctors that I saw suggested that it was probably the steroids that they give me for my chemotherapy to stop my body from A, like rejecting the chemotherapy, and B, making so it doesn't make me feel sick. He suggested it might be that was making my mood drop so low, because the steroids can actually cause psychosis in some patients. And it was like a big light bulb went off in my head, and so basically said, I don't want the steroids anymore. And from then on the chemotherapy, I didn't have that feeling that I wasn't safe. I had a scan in end of November, beginning of December. They told me that chemotherapy wasn't working either. And they gave me the option of going away and thinking about whether I want any more chemotherapy or not, or they could give me this last chemotherapy. However, in the meantime, during all this, I'd been investigating a second opinion at the Christie Hospital in Manchester, which is a cancer specialist hospital, and I'd been matched. My biopsies had been matched with a clinical trial that was going on at the time, and the professor there was keen to get me on the trial. But ironically, one of the conditions of the drug company that were doing the trial was that I had to have a particular type of chemotherapy before I could go on it, which was called Lonsurf, and this was the last chemotherapy that they wanted to give me. So I went on to the Lonsurf. I've just finished that. I've just had a CT scan to find out if that's working. Personally, I don't think it is. But if it is, brilliant. If it isn't, okay, I can go on to the trial. So I'm looking to start the trial in the beginning of May. But before that, I'm having an operation to have a stoma fitted on Monday, which hopefully will revolutionise my life and give me some sort of quality of life, because I'm either worrying about finding a toilet or worrying because I haven't been to the toilet for days. And until you suffer with constipation, you don't realise how much of your life it takes over.
It clearly sounds like this has been an absolute emotional roller coaster.
It has, yeah. I'm not a very emotive person normally. I'm the sort of person that won't cry at television programmes or films. It has to be really, really sad for me. But blimey, I've cried some tears over this last year. And it's a good thing, because I think if I'd bottled up those emotions, it just would have made me even more ill. My friends say I've got no filter. I do say what I'm thinking. I won't let somebody take advantage of me anymore, because my life's too short and it's not worth affecting my mental health because I'm not saying something that I want to say.
Can you tell me a little bit about what what sort of prognosis you've actually been given?
So when I was told in June that the first lot of chemotherapy wasn't working, it wasn't me actually who asked, it was my husband, because my husband was visibly shocked that they said that I was then terminal. And he asked what the prognosis was, and the doctor said that if I was to have no treatment, then it would be 6 to 9 months. And if I was to go on to the second chemotherapy, it would be 12 to 18 months. And I think he was more shocked than I was. I was expecting it. I mean, I in the back of my mind, I knew that I was going to be terminal. And I've never really been upset about that. It's just matter of fact with me. It's the people around me that are more upset than I am. We've already gone past the 6 to 9 months, so we're working on the 12 to 18 months. We're trying to prove him wrong.
how do people react when you tell them, and how would you like them to be with you? Because I'm sure people react in different ways.
Everybody reacts differently. I've had people that have been really sympathetic and really kind, but then you've also got the people that say, "Oh no, you're going to be all right. You'll be fine." And one of the big things for me was, I'm not owning their reactions. That's down to them. You know, it's however they want to feel, they'll feel. And you tend to find that the people who've had family members with cancer react better, because they understand what I'm going through. But I did find myself, you know, when you're walking past somebody that you know and they say, "Hi, how are you?" I've started saying, "Do you really want to know?" Because I don't want them to have to listen to this full-blown sob story unless they're really prepared for it.
How does that make you feel, though?
Sometimes I don't want to tell people. Sometimes I just want to pretend it's not happening and just go, yeah, it's okay, I'm fine. And when people say to you, they always say to you, "Oh, you look really well." And I always say, "But I'm not really well." And it's they've got there's a lot of denial from their side of it. "Oh no, you're going to be fine. You'll be fine. You'll fight it. You know, you'll get on." Well, I've been given a terminal diagnosis, so it's not going to end well. I know it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well the way I want it to end. But I've got the benefit of being able to deal with that. You know, they could go out and get hit by a bus tomorrow. They're not going to be prepared for that. I'm prepared for what's going to happen to me, or not necessarily how it's going to happen, but I'm prepared.
If you could go back in time and give your loved ones advice on how you would like to be spoken to. So if there's somebody else watching this who thinks, "Actually, I'd really like to know what could I say that could make this situation any better, but also what could I say to you to help?"
Yeah.
What might you say to them?
For me, it's not "you're so brave." I'm not brave. I'm dealing with what life's throwing at me. I'm not brave at all. I'd rather not be dealing with it. And when they say that you are, that frustrates me. And also when they tell me that, "Oh, you're going to be all right," I'm not going to be all right. You know, just be honest and just say, "Look, I'm really sorry." Because my reaction is, it's not your fault. You don't need to be sorry, but thanks, you know, and ask questions. I always say to people, if you want to ask me anything about my diagnosis, I'm more than happy to talk about it, because I'd much rather save somebody else going through what I'm going through than them suffer and them have the symptoms that I've had. I'd hate for anybody to have to go through what I'm going through. So ask questions, but make sure that person's okay with you asking them questions, because they might be at a stage in their diagnosis where they're not comfortable with that yet.
So talking now about Treetops, the spring programme, you've said, you've acknowledged took us a long time to get you here. What do you think were the barriers? How did you first hear about Treetops, and why did you immediately think that is not for me?
When the people in the hospital, the Macmillan people, kept saying to me, you know, have you spoken to Treetops? I was like, I don't want to go there. You know, it's going to be all smelly and all people dying. And you kept ringing and I kept saying, yes, I'll come, but I'm not very well at the moment. But in the end, I gave in and I came and I chatted to Julie, I think it was, and my appointment was for an hour, and nearly 3 hours later, I was still here talking to Julie. And the atmosphere was just so calm and relaxing, and I really enjoyed myself. I don't know if it was because I was just talking, or I don't know, there's something about this place. Every time I come here, it doesn't matter how I'm feeling, I go away feeling better. Somebody rang me and asked me about the spring programme, and I didn't really know what it was. And so I agreed to come, and I came, and I saw Ali on the first day. And yeah, here we are. Ever since, it's just, I actually look forward to coming here every week. It's one of the places I really look forward to coming to, and it's not just for the cake and the coffee.
Do you think part of that barrier, you touched on it there a little bit, part of the barrier of coming is perhaps a psychological acceptance, I guess, about your own diagnosis, because by coming to the hospice and accepting that help, there's an element of accepting the fact that you are dying or you have a life-limiting condition.
Partly, yeah. I mean, the word hospice does scare you a little bit, but actually when you come here and you see that it's not that, it's not about that. For me, it was more, I'd got so little time, or I'd been told I'd got so little time. Did I want to waste it on something that I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of it? And I'm so glad I did, you know, because it's really helped me come in here. And every week I feel so much better when I've been.
How does that positivity impact on your everyday life when you're not here?
I'm a positive person anyway, but it sort of gives me a bit of a boost. It's like recharging me. That's how I see it. I come here and I recharge my batteries and build up my positivity. But a lot of it as well is when I'm talking to Ali, is she understands because of her background. She understands when I'm talking to her about the problems that I've got with my bowels and everything. You know, I can walk in here and I have done. I walked in and sat down and she's asked me how I am and I've burst into tears and, you know, I cried all the way through the whole session. And there's no judgment. And that's so good because when you go out into the real world and you do that, there's judgment. I don't care what anybody says. People look at you when your face is bright red because you've been crying. And there's a lot of understanding as well. And that is big. You know, you don't have to come in and explain what's wrong with you. They understand, which is refreshing, very refreshing. Yeah.
This must be a very different experience to the clinical side of all the other treatment and oncology and what have you. It must be very, very different from that. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the difference that this brings as opposed to the sort of medical, clinical side of things.
Yeah, this is more about the mental health side of it. And it doesn't focus on the medical side at all. I mean, there is a little bit of it. You've got a doctor here that, you know, you can see if you need to. But this is really about my well-being and making me feel better and finding ways to do that. And it works. It works for me. And I'm sure it would work for a lot of other people.
What sessions do you think have kind of helped you the most and why?
I think the goals one for me, really, is actually sitting there and thinking about things that I want to do. Because you go through life and you think, oh, I've always wanted to do something like that. But I've actually written them down and I'm starting to tick them off. And they're ridiculous things, you know, like going for an afternoon tea and like another one is I want to go on a cruise up to see the Northern Lights. And those are time-specific ones. So it's a goal for me to go and do that because I can't do that until October. So it means I've got to be here in October. So that's a big goal for me. Like dyeing my hair pink, I wanted to do that. Didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, but hey-ho. But it's things like that, and things like that are important because you need your goals. And if I can tick things off, it makes me feel even better.
What advice might you give yourself at the start of the programme?
Don't make assumptions of what it's going to be. For me, it was all, I was thinking it was going to be all clinical and all doom and gloom, and it's not. It's how you want it to be. It's all personalised. It's all geared around what you want to get out of it. And if you want to skip a step, you can do. Or if you want to drag a step out a bit longer, you can do. You know, it's about you. It's not about following the rules. And they're just guidelines. It's 12 steps, but I think I've been doing it a bit longer than 12 weeks, maybe.
And how might you persuade somebody who you meet perhaps another person with cancer and you say, I've been coming and doing the spring programme here at Treetops. What might you say to them now to try and persuade them to come?
Please try it. I know I was so reluctant to do it and I regret not doing it sooner because I think if I'd have done it sooner, I would have got even more out of it. And if they want me to come with them, I will do. I don't mind holding their hand through it all because I've had so much out of it. that I would want them to get the same. Don't be hesitant. Like I say, it is a personalised thing. You can get what you want out of it. You might not even know what you want out of it, but you'll come here and they'll ask you the probing questions. They won't embarrass you. It's at your pace, but they will ask you the questions and they'll get stuff out of you. They'll draw stuff out of you, and you will benefit from it. Come here and try it out. Even if it is the Tai Chi, it's not Tai Chi standing up, it's sitting down. The book club, it's reading a book, not necessarily reading the book. The spring program, even if you come to the spring program, they do a meet once a month of a group session that you can go to. Complementary therapy. I've had a few things off that. There's like a consultant there. Ali put me in touch with Dr. Swanwick, who's the consultant here, and Dr. Swanwick put me in touch with a surgeon who's doing the operation for me when I have my stoma fitted next week. If it hadn't have been for talking to Ali about that and getting so upset about the fact that I'm constantly constipated, I would never have got that appointment with Dr. Swanwick and then the appointment with Mr. Hurst. So, for me, it's all benefit. There's nothing bad about coming here. Just do it.
When you think about Treetops, what word or words come to mind?
Kind, warm, emotive, yeah, things like that. They draw emotions out of you. Not sure that's a good thing all the time. And like I say, I've shed a lot of tears here. But for me, I've said it before and I'll always say it, I always go away feeling better than when I walk in. Even if I'm in a good mood, I always go away in a better mood. There's just something about it. It's just the whole place. Everybody knows you walk in, everybody knows your name. I came for Christmas lunch here. It was brilliant. The pantomime is hilarious that the staff put on. It's just, whenever anybody walks in, it's about them. It's not about the people that work here. It's about the people that come here for whatever it is they're coming here. You're made to feel special, and that's important, especially when you're going through what I'm going through. I walk in and everybody knows my name, and that's nice. They remember me. Whenever I go for my chemotherapy, the combined day unit has got this smell, and I dread it. The day or 2 days before, I start to get this dread about going to the combined day unit. There's nothing I enjoy about that place. It's all and it's because every time I've had chemotherapy, it's really made me poorly. And it's just that dread. And that's why I think about this place when I'm going there, because I know coming here, I always look forward to coming here. The drive here is like, yeah, I know I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel great. And I just wish I could bottle that. But I wish I could just bottle this up and put it there, because it'd be a completely different feeling then.